Reports are coming out that the Diddy freak-off tapes is getting released to the general public. This is due to the Diddy's attorneys saying that the freak-off tapes would actually prove his innocence. They state that the only person that is alleged to be a true victim of Diddy that's outside of lawsuits, the ones that the courts are going after him for, is Cassie. And it said all of the tapes featuring Cassie shows that she was having a great time and it was all consensual. Breaking this down and more.
Diddy has filed new documents in the federal indictment against him. And his defense here is basically telling the feds, you don't have a case because as far as Cassie is concerned, victim one, as the feds describe her.
And by the way, the only victim listed in the whole federal complaint.
So far, all they've put forward to the feds
is
Cassie. And he says Cassie
she was in on it.
This was completely consensual. He said that before, but now he's saying she was well aware that things were being recorded. There were no secret cameras, there were no hidden cameras, and she was completely party to this as much.
What's interesting about this, I want you guys to refer back to the actor Tyrese, actor-singer. He went out to say and go on a massive rant claiming that there are no such thing as Diddy tapes, there's no tapes recorded, that it was all just propaganda and people on the internet took a story and ran with it. Well, this kind of destroys his entire argument and any other celebrity's argument that claims tapes don't exist. So now the goalposts have been moved from tapes not existing to, well, the tapes showing consensual acts. What is interesting is he's speaking only with Cassie. So if he's focusing on Cassie only, what about the other people that claim to be alleged in these tapes? It would make sense if Cassie isn't someone that's being abused in said tapes if she is a participant.
As I was.
Not only aware of it, what he says in these documents is that victim one, Cassie, kept these videos on her own device for years and then produced them to the government as they were building their case, and says, if you actually watch these, there's 9 videos, apparently 6 encounters. They say she not only consented, but appears to thoroughly enjoy herself. She is evidently happy, dominant, and completely in control. So they're saying,
well, they're switching up on Cassie and trying to hit her with the Ghislaine Maxwell, trying to take it. It's like, if I go down, you going with me. So they're saying that she was enjoying herself. She had free will. And she was also, if you want to call it abuse, participating in whatever those freak off tapes are, whatever inside of those. So they're saying she was a willing participant, enjoying herself. And it's an interesting move from the defense because it could be one of the greatest mistakes that Diddy has made. There could be a chance that the feds only released those tapes to Diddy and sent them to Diddy in the case just to get him to pull the bait, to claim that this is all there is. They're lying on me, and they could make Diddy look like a fool by releasing more evidence. They could be trickling evidence down in an attempt to get him to bury himself, to make the case easier in the end.
saying, look, this is a consensual relationship. These were not orgies. These were not with minors. This is a consensual relationship between Diddy and Cassie at the time, and some couples do record their encounters.
So there are 2 things going on here. One, the characterization of victim one, that calling her a victim, what he's trying to do is blow that up and say she's not a victim, she's a participant.
Right.
That's number one. But the second thing that I think is really interesting is that one of the allegations we know that the feds are making is that there were sex workers that were flown from one state to another to engage in these freak-offs. And that the flying of a sex worker and paying them would constitute prostitution, which is illegal under federal law, the Mann Act.
You can't fly someone across state lines, transport them across state lines for purpose of prostitution.
Strange with that, that would lead, at least my feeling, at least 20% of America's, more than that, 40% of America has played their hands in prostitution. If that will be true, imagine if all of the people from Instagram that's been flown out for a date or for a night out or any of those type of things, anyone that's being flown, I mean, the culture of flying people out has been pretty common. And that's another thing that Diddy's defense is using, saying that what makes my client any different from any male who has access to money and has access to plane tickets. It's a pretty good defense, but by the law, everyone else is just breaking the law. It doesn't mean that, you know, your client is being targeted. It's just the fact that he has more eyes on him and he did it at such a standard that it got the law's attention. It's the same thing as, maybe a few counterfeit bills might get through there, but if you try to print out 100,000, you can believe the feds are going to knock on your door. It's just the simple fact of the frequency that Diddy was doing it that can get Fed attention. But let's be real about all this. The true thing about all of this is the most likely scenario for Diddy even being in trouble is because he had information on the wrong people on some of these tapes. I mean, come on. When they raided his house, all of his houses, the first place they went was searching for video evidence, video footage and recordings. That in itself is odd to me. And they had a plan. When they went in his house, they were looking for something. And I feel like they didn't. I feel like not only did they not get what they're looking for, they feared that Diddy could get it released, which is one of the main reasons they didn't want him to be getting out of jail. I don't think it's over a flight risk. I think it's similar to Epstein. They're afraid of the cards falling down.
Here's the complication. The law doesn't say anything about, but you have to show coercion or force. But the intention behind the law was essentially forced slavery. That's why this thing passed.
Right.
And that the intention was
to combat that. Yeah.
Was to combat force, coercion, or duress. We know because we've done a documentary. We've done 3 documentaries actually on this, the downfall of Diddy. We interviewed his lawyer in the second one, Mark Agnifilo, and he told me squarely that he is arguing that force and coercion is an element of this, and he is going to fight it.
Right, and this is what they're doing with this new filing, right, is to say they're addressing that force and coercion part of it and taking that off the table.
That's right.
As far as they're concerned. So.
And this document that was just filed, to me, is the closest evidence we have of the defense that he's going to mount. Mm-hmm. Now, when you think about it, if Cassie is the star witness, and everything points to the fact that she's going to be, this is not a slam dunk.
But she's going to testify, right, that she was forced and that she was afraid of him. And so, yes, she went along with it because she was afraid of what the consequences.
Right, but then the jury's going to watch the tape, and I'm not saying that she wasn't afraid. Right. I'm saying that it may be that watching the tape and listening to her on the stand.
But then this tape, and then her response is going to be, "Look what happened," right? And then they're going to play this video.
But the feds are saying this tape is not evidence of the freak-off, even though it was during a freak-off.
Yeah,
correct.
Look, Harvey, to your point, even if it's not specifically an element they need to convict Diddy, this certainly changes the case.
And this is what makes me feel like they have more footage. If they're saying this took off, the tapes they're talking about took place during freak-offs, but it's not the information they're using to convict him, it tells me that they have other tapes, especially from what was pulled from his housing, that shows the true nature of these freak-off parties.
Entirely, if what you're looking at with these freak-off videos, which people think are orgies and other celebrities and prostitutes, are just consensual sexual activity between a couple, it's going to change the jury's impression of what they're really litigating here and maybe look like prosecutorial overreach.
Derek, is he saying that in these the 9 encounters that it was just himself and Cassie, or is he acknowledging that there were third parties involved?
They're being very careful with their words. What they say is the videos do not depict sex parties. What you take of that, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And then it says there are no secret cameras, no orgies, no other celebrities involved, no underground tunnels, no minors, and not so much as a hint of coercion or violence. Take that for what it means. There are other ways of saying there are other people who are not celebrities. I don't know.
I can answer it. Because when I interviewed Mark Agnifilo,
the most important thing would be, of course, there being no minors. So if that's the defense that they're starting to take, very interesting.
And when we talked about freak-offs, I asked him about these, after parties, with 100 people. Mm-hmm. And he said, we're talking about three ways.
Right.
And so
we've seen evidence of that there have been just 3 ways. So they are careful not to exclude that option, that it can be a 3-way, but a 3-way is enough.
If it's a sex worker that they paid, that they cross state lines. Now, then the issue becomes, is Mark Agnifilo right that you can use force, coercion, or duress as an element of the Mann Act, even though it doesn't explicitly say it?
Well, that's where the jury comes in, right?
I guess the only point I'm making is, everybody's kind of made their mind up on this yet. Legally, this is an interesting case because remember, She is the only victim listed
To this
in this
point, yeah.
indictment.
My name is Ariella Steinhorn, and I'm in New York City.
I find it odd that there aren't more victims. Even with the Epstein thing, we had tens of different victims already. And it just makes me feel like it's starting to kind of look like a witch hunt for Diddy in a way. I know people are going to say what they're going to say, but there should be more victims. There should be more victims outside of lawsuits. Anyone can file lawsuits, and it happens every time a celebrity gets in trouble, and they end up being hungry for money. Let's just be real. I try to be fair. It's looking like a witch hunt because how is it that his spouse, the girl, the one that he was dating, I know they never got married, Cassie, how is it that she's the only victim out of all of these years, and most of these charges and things we're seeing from these other lawsuits come from the 90s? How is it she's the only one? How is she the only one? Where are the other victims? Where are the criminal charges for other victims? And it feels like this whole story has been manufactured to be bigger than what it is, because you would think there's like 10, 30, 40, 50 different victims, but all of those are lawsuits. What about the criminal charges? What does the government say he's done wrong? And that is looking kind of shaky. It's starting to look like a witch hunt, and I'm starting to think the government is just government officials, powerful people, whatever it could be. They're protecting themselves.
To me, this is a page.
I don't think this is about protecting women. I don't think this is about, at this point, of protecting children. I think this is about protecting an establishment. Which one? We'll find that out
Of the playbook of any man who has ever been accused of sexual assault, to divert, to say that she wanted it, to say that it was consensual. Even if it was ever at one point consensual, I think that the case can be made that there were plenty of non-consensual acts that occurred. And I think that the concept of DARVO, of reversing victim and defender, and putting all of our attention on Cassie and the thought that she maybe wanted this or was involved or was orchestrating this in some way, is an interesting tactic from his lawyers. But we'll see what Cassie has to say on the stand.
Yeah, I mean, she's going to be the star witness for sure.
That will be interesting just to see how Cassie responds with all of this. But the claim that she was into it and she being the only victim, I hate to say it, if she was to respond saying, yeah, I did enjoy it, I wasn't a victim in those alleged tapes, it's a chance that Diddy could be getting out. I find it odd that you only have one victim. I mean, let's be honest. All of this over one victim is crazy. And I think in a fair world, that would happen with every victim. But let's be real. In America, they don't do that much for just one person. And Cassie, she's famous, but she wasn't someone that's generating companies so much money to where it makes sense for the spectacle. I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. It just doesn't make sense to do all this for one person, especially in the hip hop industry. I mean, most people, they could care less what they do. They don't care. They want hip hop people to do what they do, be the worst examples for the youth, because that's what they want the youth to be. So the youth can get in trouble and have to become a part of the government through the jail system or even through the court systems. They want them to be tagged, and they can be tagged by being influenced by degeneracy like Diddy and the things he was doing. So for them to put that person out the picture that motivates people to be like him, it's interesting. And I think it's only because something went sour. He didn't give a tape when he should have, which has led to all of this. And they don't want the real tapes to come out to the general public, because that means the names will be attached. That's why they might say Cassie is the only victim, because if they talk about real victims, if there's real victims, there's a great chance there were other influential people in that room, and that would lead to implicating others that they don't want implicated. They're just trying to find a way to only take down Diddy, which might be impossible, especially with his defense saying that, well, if it's just one victim, she's cool with it. This will force the law to show the other victims, and if they show the other victims, they'll have to show the other participants. So it could get very interesting. We'll see how it goes. Please like, comment, subscribe. I've been getting ready to head to the inauguration, my first inauguration. Excited for that, and hopefully I'll see a lot of y'all there. But click the notification bell to stay updated on my next post. Thank you guys until we break the next narrative.